Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
sir.
All right. Here we go. Um, thank you for that introduction. I've been very lucky to photograph the last 8 Olympics, and believe it or not, we're well into preps for Milan, which is only 8 months away. Hard to believe. Um, so that'll be number 9. Um, and one of the things I realized when I put this presentation, well, before I put this together, was just the similarities. Because people always laugh at me when they say, "Wait, you do like I did a bar mitzvah yesterday. I did a grad party the day before. I did a corporate event on Thursday. So I shoot a little bit of everything." And they're like, "Wait, I thought you were a wildlife photographer or an Olympic photographer." And I said, no, I just love photography. I like photographing lots of different things, but I realized how similar Olympics is for wildlife, and we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to jump right in. Here's what I love. I like to photograph pretty much everything. So as I mentioned, this last week has been a little bit of everything. A lot of local events here. Did some portraits as well yesterday. Haven't done any sports this week. But and no wildlife this week, but I got back from another photo tour in Costa Rica 2 weeks ago. I'm heading out, I'm heading to New York next week to speak at the B&H Build Show. I come back for 3 days and then go to Peru and then Ecuador and Galapagos. So a lot of time out there traveling and getting to see some cool stuff. Landscapes, I like doing landscapes. A lot of night photography. That started back when I was in the corporate world, and I would go to travel all over the world. And I thought, gee, I have these spare evenings together. I could just sit in a hotel room and watch TV, or I could go shoot night shots. So that's how that started. I like macro. I like basically everything. The only two things I really don't enjoy doing photography of is food and newborns. I'm just not good at it. Babies are tough. I've tried it. Not. I do have two grandkids. I photograph them all the time, but that's good enough for me. So here's the thing. What do they have in common? Um, so the key is you want to freeze the action, and sometimes you want to freeze it. Sometimes you want to show that motion. And so a lot of times when I'm doing Olympic photography, I'd like to do motion panning and things. So I use those same techniques, whether I'm shooting sports or wildlife. I'm going to show you a lot of images to show you this. I look for peak of action. I look for peak of reaction. So in the case of sports, if the sport's happening, I want to capture that, but also the reaction of the athlete, sometimes the reaction of an animal. Um, I can't control the situation. This is key. When I'm shooting, like yesterday, I was shooting a bar mitzvah. I can control I can control a lot. I can't control during the service, but during the party, I can tap someone on the shoulder, say, "Hey, the three of you, turn around, let me get a picture." Or I can say, "Wait, hey, mom and dad, if you can do the speech, can you do it over there? The light's better." Or I've got my remote light set up. That's a better location. Um, that I can do. At the Olympics, we have very little control. Even though I shoot for the team and I know a lot of the athletes, if we're doing a portrait situation, I can control that. But boy, once we're in Olympic venues, it is what it is. Same thing's true for wildlife. I can't control what the animals are doing. So similar equipment and similar settings when I'm shooting both, and we'll talk about that. And workflow, my workflow is a little insane. My Olympic deadline when I'm shooting for Team USA is gone from 24 hours back in Beijing in 2008 and is now down to 14 minutes. So when I shot in Paris and I took 4,000 images, let's say during a water polo game, I had 14 minutes to go through those 4,000 images, find the best 10 to 15, retouch them, resize them, and get them back to the team. I use that same workflow when I was in Costa Rica doing wildlife for the last 2 weeks. Every night we get back, we'd have dinner. Even before dinner, sometimes I go through the 1,500 images I shot, find the best ones, retouch them, resize them, and I'd share them with the people at dinner or the next morning just to show them, like, here's what I'm getting. This is what I'm kind of pushing you to get. So it's a lot of teaching, but also I don't want to come home and have a week's worth of work to do. And I've had people go with me to Africa, and 2 years later, like, oh, I'm still going through the images. So I tend to go through them every night and try to get rid of the bad stuff and the duplicates and all that. And it's fun. I love doing all types of photography, and in particular, I really like doing sports and wildlife because I can't control the situation. So I'm kind of at the whim of what happens, which is kind of fun. So here's the thing: when I'm photographing, and this is true of every situation, I'm hyper aware. I'm being ready at all times. So even like last night when I was shooting, or 2 nights ago, I was doing the grad party. It was at someone's estate here nearby. Nice home, $25 million home, and beautiful backyard. But I gotta be ready at all times. Like if mom and dad are not dancing and then they end up on the dance floor, I gotta be there. Um, no one fell in the pool, but if they did, it'd be a fun shot. You gotta be aware of what's happening. So I'm always hyper aware of what's happening, and trying to think ahead, which is why when I shoot an event like sports, I'm exhausted afterwards because I'm just trying to find the best shot and try to push myself. So looking for the peak of action, looking in all directions. I can't tell you how many times I've been photographing and everybody's fixated on the lion over here or the monkey or on the right side. And there's two more monkeys on the left that are way better light, way better shot. So you have to look around. I like to shoot differently. I'm going to show you different ways I do that. I do think about the foreground and background quite a bit. I did a video. I do a lot of videos for B&H Photo. They're all free. And one of them is, I think it was like the 15 things I think about every time I take a photo. And literally, before I hit the button, I'm thinking, okay, is my aperture right? Is my shutter speed good? How's my foreground? How's my background? Is it the peak of action? How's the light? Is my focus point in the right place? All those kinds of things. So these are the things my brain is kind of going through. Best angles, should I shoot tight? Should I pull back and shoot wide? I love shooting with zoom lenses and rarely ever shoot with a prime. Almost always with a zoom lens. So here's a shot from Paris Olympics. Simone Biles, you probably heard of her. She was doing the uneven bars. I was using the Canon R1. I was actually using prototypes of the R1. There are three of them. I am sponsored by Canon, so it was pretty cool to be able to use that in the R5 Mark II. But man, it locked in on her eyes so well. And uneven bars is so hard because they're going up, down, forward, back, around between the two bars. Trying to track them is really, really tough. So I was really happy to get a shot like this. And this on the balance beam, same thing, trying to include the logo at the bottom so you can see where we are. Because if I didn't have that on the beam, you wouldn't know that this is at the Olympics. And again, looking for that peak of action for Simone's jump on the beam. This one here, which is the one of the photos that won me the sports photographer of the year this past year. And this is taken at the Paris Olympics as well. And I basically saw these rings as a background, and I stood directly across the rings, kind of in a weird spot right by TV camera, and just waited for the athletes to jump into frame. And I got two or three I really liked. One, there was an athlete dead center. But I actually like this one off center in the position that he was in, and it was kind of cool. I actually put this on my blog and asked people which one do you like better, and unanimously people like this one. My blog, I tend to blog every week. The blog gets about 100,000 viewers a month. During the Olympics, during Paris, it got almost 1 million views. So I had a lot of feedback, which was cool. Again, peak of action. This is from Team USA. Suni doing her jump. Again, I framed myself. I knew that if they jumped over to the far right by a TV camera, it wasn't a shot I'd want, or if they went far left. So I kind of waited for them to perform and do something within that frame I have with the Paris logo. I also shot this at 2.8 to get her in focus and have everything, all the judges in the background kind of soft. This is thinking differently. This is Coco Gauff, who just won the French Open a couple days ago. And I was photographing her at the Olympics. She didn't do very well in Paris. She was out very early, but I actually was shooting. You'll see this TV camera down in this pit area, which is I was on the opposite side in that pit because it was so hot that day. I tried shooting in the sun. I was baking. So I went down into the shaded pit area and I saw the rings, the Olympic rings were on the net. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool to shoot Coco through but have the rings kind of as a foreground element. And then this one here, this is during the kayak cross where they dump all four of the boaters out into the river at one time. And I saw the splash that came out off of each boat and loved just the look of that. It was really cool. It took me probably hundreds of shots to get one where all four boats came down at the same time so I could get kind of a uniform splash, still see the Olympic rings and the Paris logo above. And the thing I liked is I had most of the flags visible on the oars, which was kind of cool. This here was getting low in the angle. This is in Versailles in Paris. And you'll see the kind of white fence that's surrounding the area. I was around the white fence on the side of this horse and just got down low, kind of into the bottom rungs there and shot up on the horse to make it look bigger. And that's with I believe I was using a 24 millimeter lens at that time, maybe possibly a 15 to 35, but I think I might have been using the 24 to 70. I don't remember, but a fairly wide shot. And just really love the horse, the rider, the position, the flowers in the background, everything, and the crowd, which was nice. This is a 10 to 20 shot with the Canon super wide inside the Grand Palace in Paris. And again, I like to try different lenses and things. And this is the Taekwondo in that venue. And again, I was really close. It looks like I'm far away, but I was probably 20 feet from the athletes. But with that super wide lens, it was cool to shoot something different to include the building. So same thing here in wildlife. This is taken Tanzania. This is during the crossing, during the migration, and it's quite common for the crocodiles when they feel the vibration in the river for the wildebeest. They come a hunting, hoping to get some food. Luckily, this croc missed all of them, and all the wildebeest were literally jumping over and on the crocodile to get over it. It was incredible. And if you look at the size of this croc has to be a good 16, 18 feet because these wildebeest are like a small horse. So this thing was just massive and never did get a catch, but it's still one of my favorite pictures I've taken. So that's peak of action in wildlife. This here in India, same thing. We had about 30 seconds with this tiger. He was coming up a pathway toward us. I had told everybody on my photo tour, let's get our ISO up in case we see one coming. And so we were ready for it. But I just love the paw position. You'll see I had a little bit of motion in the paw, so fairly slow shutter speed, but enough to get the face nice and sharp. This is in Costa Rica. I do a lot of photo tours. I've done 15 photo tours Costa Rica, and I've got 5 more booked. This is one of the white-faced monkeys looking very intense. So I like that look. Here's a couple of hummingbirds in Costa Rica that were interacting. So I love, and this is true for the athletes too, I like getting individuals, but also getting multiple animals or athletes in one shot. This is a shot in Tanzania, and this is during the reverse migration, and it was starting to rain, and this leopard was on a rock, and I told our driver, come around to the other side, because he wanted to be head on to this cat. And I said, no, because right behind it was a bush and nothing was behind it here. So we had a good, clean background. So kind of cool, that cool shot, doing something different there. So I'm always thinking about those foregrounds and backgrounds. This is in Botswana. This is a fish in the mouth of the kingfisher. And it was kind of cool. We pulled our boat right up to it and shot that with the 100 to 500 lens. Right into its face, which is kind of cool. This with again looking for the interaction between mom and the cubs. Also in Tanzania, I just love the cubs are great. Any young animal is really fun. So they actually were in this spot, then walked toward our vehicle, and I got this shot. I always tend to focus on the first and closest animal because if you focused on the back one, it looks really weird. So you always want to focus on that closest animal. Love this one. Now here I broke that rule and I photographed on mom. I did both. I had mom as my subject here and the cub as the secondary subject. And I also did the same thing in reverse where I had to come and focus with mom soft. I liked having kind of both as options. This is an exercise in thinking differently. So this is me. We saw this lizard. This is in Costa Rica. And it was a pretty boring shot from above the leaf, but I got down on my back and laid down upside down and shot with the shadow of the lizard. And again, its head was peeking out. If the head hadn't peeked out, it wouldn't have been a shot. But it's cool to do something different like that. This is my equipment. Pretty much my equipment today. Canon R1. I actually have 2 R1s, R5 Mark II, R6 Mark II. Lots of different lenses. And depending on what I'm shooting, for shooting sports and wildlife, I tend to use the 100 to 500, 100 to 300 with a teleadapter sometimes. For portraits, I live on the 70 to 200. That's my favorite lens. And then I've got a whole slew of flashes. I've got 6 of the Canon flashes. I also have 6 of the uh, why am I forgetting the name of my flashes? I'll come back to it. Totally spacing here. I've got a whole bunch of. I carried. I think I had 10 flashes with me um, when I was shooting yesterday. I don't take flashes with me for wildlife, and I don't take flashes at the Olympics because not allowed. So I use Benro tripods, Acrotech ball heads, Think Tank bags, ProGrade digital memory cards, Black Rapid straps, and I'm also sponsored by Apple. So I have a whole bunch of MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs, Mac Studio, all kinds of goodies there. Also in Africa, and this here is, I tend to shoot tight, but here I want to shoot wide. I want to show the mountain in the background with the different generations of elephant that were walking in front of us. I thought that was really cool. Getting down low. This is in Botswana. We're in a boat at water level and looking at these elephants crossing by. And I really want to get a shutter speed to freeze the water as the elephant was walking by. So one of the jobs of a photographer is to tell a story. And I try to tell a story whether I'm shooting a graduation, a bar mitzvah, sports, whatever it might be. That is our job, no matter what the subject. So at the Olympics in Paris, the woman I shoot for USA Water Polo is my primary team, and coming up in Milan, my primary team will be USA Ice Hockey, men's and women's. And the women have won gold for the last 3 years, and we're hoping for a 4th win, and they did not even medal. The men who were not supposed to medal did really, really well. So my job was to make sure I told that story. So here's a cool shot with one of the guys. I like the fact that he's getting ready for a shot. I still have his eyes locked in, but I love the water coming off of his arm, kind of made for a neat shot. The goaltender who played out of his mind, played a great game. What I will do when I'm shooting the goaltender, I'm watching the shot clock. So if that shot clock is ticking down, let's say 7, 6, 5, 4, I'll lock in, back button focus on the goaltender. I know a shot's probably coming. And then I'll just fire and hope that that ball comes into frame. But then I don't have to worry about the focus being on the athletes in the front. I know I'll be locked in on Max right in the net there. Doesn't always have to be a photograph of the face to tell a story. This is a shot, one of the athletes just kind of doing a fist pump because they scored a goal. And I love the Olympic rings tattoo on him. I thought that was really cool, and that told a story. So I'm always trying to think about what it can be, what I can do to tell a story. Here I talked about capturing reactions as well as actions, and it's pretty rare that you get coaches to react. The main coach is over here on the left, who's out of focus and actually doesn't care. But look at the athlete's reaction, and some of the other coach here, and a fist pump over here. You've got some really cool stuff, but this tells you that they're doing much better than they expected, and they're excited about it, right? You can't fake this. You can't say to the athletes, "Hey, I want you to show this emotion." You have to be ready to capture that. This here, I like this shot. For a couple of reasons. He's one of my favorite players, super good guy. He's been playing for many years, but I love that the Olympic rings still show through amongst all the water splash in this shot. And then when they won bronze, which was again unexpected, it was really amazing to be on the deck and get all those guys out of the pool. And of course, I know a lot of them saw, or most of them, so I told them, "Don't go anywhere. I want to get a shot with you guys." And so I could capture something like this. So this I did have some control over. And the weird thing was where they did the medal ceremony was right by where the stands were, the people. So it was a horrible shot because there was very little separation between the athletes in the background. So, but I saw this area, which is where they came out for introductions before the game. And I saw the Paris 2024 logo on the ground. I liked the background. It was lit for television. And so I had all the guys come over here and to get the shot. And I actually got a shot with me with the medal, which is always fun because, I'm part of the team. So I got to celebrate with them. And we did get drunk that night. And then I just got this for the holidays in December. I got a package to my house. I didn't know what it was. It's that same shot that they framed, and it's actually sitting right behind me here. And they all signed it. That was really cool. That was really nice of them.
That's nice.
Going back to wildlife, interaction again. Interaction between these two females with the cub in sight. telling a story. So this tells a story, right? The love between the two. Look at this with them nudging this little cub that's coming up this ravine. It had a hard time coming up the ravine. So this one kind of nudged its back end and then came over, and this mom grabbed this one to move it. We watched the whole generation of these lions. It was just awesome to watch. And then this shot, which is on my wall in my living room, this is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. I just love the interaction. Look at mom, the cub here with the paws touching. These guys, this one's scrunched up against the back end of another female, and the tail of this one's right there, crunch. I mean, just everything about this, just I just love. Just works for me. So I talked about showing motion and how important that is. There's different ways to show motion. There's the way to freeze the action. There's also ways to slow that shutter speed, like you'll see in this image right here, where I've got the speed skater, and obviously I'm doing motion pan. He's sharp, but the Olympic rings are completely blurred. I can keep still and let the motion happen. I'll show you a shot like that. I do a lot of motion panning, and I do a lot of playing around with my shutter speed. So here's freezing the action. Again, U.S. men's gymnastics in Paris. It was great to have his skin tone and the red, white, and blue up against that background was really awesome. Again, Simone, this during qualifications. Why did I frame it this way? I framed it to get the 2024 on the right, a little bit of the qualification sign in the background, and to get, I mean, just to have her like this worked out really well. Again, you can't really plan that. You just have to be ready for that.
Yes.
This is one, this shot was interesting. I'd never photographed badminton before. I had a free couple hours to shoot. So I went around and shot some different sports. I usually cover as many as I can. And this shot was interesting because I had never shot badminton and I was missing a lot of shots. And it was the first time I ever used the pre-capture of the R5 Mark II or the R1, in this case, the R5 Mark II. And so pre-capture allows me to hold the button down. And if I see something good happen, I can hit the shutter button and it'll go back half a second. And I found that it actually helped me get some pretty cool shots like this one. And again, looking for that peak of action. In this shot, if the bird had not been in that shot, it wouldn't have been as interesting. Just like if I shoot hockey, I want the puck in the shot. Peak of action here for volleyball. I went down to the sand to get these shots, but my favorite shot was actually up above, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. I think it's in here. Same thing here. Peak of action here. Peak of action here. This is a chameleon. This is in Namibia in Africa, and we found him in the wild. And our guide goes, "Watch this!" And he had a bunch of mealworms in his pack, alive, and he threw it down on the ground. He goes, "This thing's going to eat it." So I got down low to the ground with a 100 or 400. This is the old 1DX. Set it for as fast as frame rate I could get. And the cool thing about the chameleon is the tongue actually comes out a little bit and then fires. So it almost is like a nice little warning, like, get ready, I'm going to shoot out my tongue because it comes out at 200 miles an hour. So as soon as I saw the tongue come out, I just fired it, hammered the shutter, and got the shot, which is really cool. This was a lucky shot. This is in Costa Rica. We do a dolphin tour where we go out in the water. There are a lot of flying fish. I tried to capture another one of these on the last trip 2 weeks ago and still didn't get it like this one. Nice tack sharp with water behind it. This is generally when dolphins are chasing the fish and they're trying to get out of the way. This is again when this is predicting the action. This is in Costa Rica. This is where I shoot in the rainforest. Same resort every time, and we do day trips, so we stay in the same place the whole time, which is awesome. And the macaw, when you see them feeding on the palm fruit here, it's pretty predictable. They go back and forth between two trees. They'll grab a palm nut, go eat it somewhere else, come back, get another one. So I was just teaching everybody, get ready, here comes. And as soon as he grabbed a palm nut, we just hammer the shutter and get some really, really beautiful colors like this. This one here is on the dolphin tour that we do. They jump quite high, the spotted dolphins and the bottlenose, but mainly the spotted dolphins. This is just a cool capture. Dolphins are my favorite animal. So to get this made my day because it was facing us. Look at the height of that jump, the water coming off the body, everything about it was really, really cool. This is actually in Hawaii on a recent trip. It was a vacation. I promised my girlfriend I would not bring my camera and do too much shooting. Yeah, that didn't happen. I still hear about that. again in Costa Rica. Now these guys move much slower. So here you're shooting at fast shutter speeds. You're at, a couple thousandth of a second minimum. Here, these guys the sloths move really slow. You can shoot these guys 100, 150th of a second. They don't move that fast. I just posted a video on my YouTube channel that I shot with the R1 of one of them moving. It was really cool. But I just love the toe position here. I didn't have to go too fast for the shutter speed. This one here is showing motion in a different way. So many of you may or may not know that your camera, if it's a recent camera in the last 5, 6, 7 years, you have a feature in there called multi-exposure. This is not done in Photoshop. So I literally set my camera for 4 exposures, waited for both athletes to jump at the same time so I could get good synergy between them. Even the guy in the background, if you look over to the left there, you'll see that he had a little bit of movement, but I couldn't move. Because if I moved, all the logo in the front, the 2020 and everything else would have been blurred. So we're not allowed to use tripods at the Olympics. So I just held on for dear life on a monopod, and I fired off every time the athletes would jump. I fired off 4 frames, and I needed them both to move because if one, let's say the German athlete there didn't move, the American would be perfectly stacked like this, and the German guy would just be 4 really close together. It'd be like a big mess. So it took a lot of frames to get this one. And this was in Tokyo Olympics, one of my favorite shots, actually probably my marquee shot from the games in Tokyo. I did the same thing in Paris. The weird thing in Tokyo, like every Olympics, it's theatrically lit with a black background. Now in Tokyo, it was still COVID. We had no fans. In Paris, they actually had the Grand Palace, and they had tons of fans, so we didn't have a black background. So it's harder to get that multi-exposure and get the contrast between them, but I still did it and had some fun with it. This is taken back in 2014 in Sochi, Russia. And this is, so when I talk about capturing action, most wildlife is at least 1,000th of a second, if not more. If it's birds in flight, I like to be at least 2,500th of a second. With these guys, and bobsled, you have to be about 5,000th of a second because they're so fast coming down. So what I would do is I would pre-focus my lens on the 4 right here of the logo, and then wait for the athlete to come through. And basically, you don't even see them coming, you hear them. And you hear this like, and they're gone. So you kind of wait for the noise and you just hammer the shutter. Here's the same idea, pre-focusing on the 2 here, and slowing the shutter speed down and letting the motion show that blur to show something different. Because honestly, if I shoot them at 5,000th of a second, one after another gets really boring. It's just one athlete looking like the next. So I like to change it up. Here's freezing the action. This is in Paris, in Versailles, of the horse jumping. Here's the same thing now shot at 30th of a second as opposed to 2,000th of a second. This is at 30th of a second. Again, my goal is to motion pan it, so we get the blur of all the audience and the jump, tack sharp on the face. That's what I'm going for. Here, it's just the opposite. Here, I'm shooting at a 1,500th of a second. I'm trying to get Jenna's face in focus. Got a really cool arc of water there, which worked out. Actually, Jenna's lives about 15 minutes from me here. It turns out I still owe her this as a poster. If you look behind me, I've got a Canon Pro 4100 printer. I could print 44 inches by 100 feet. So I want to print her a big picture of this. Here's, again, slowing the shutter down. This is way back in London in 2012. And it was the bike racing in the velodrome. I don't fully understand this at all because they had the lead guy in front of them for most of it. Don't fully understand it. So I turned the aperture like f18, which slowed my shutter speed down, focused on the Olympic rings there on the track in the background, and just held the camera steady as they came by. Why do I love motion panning? Because everybody asks me this. I love motion panning because it shows a different view of your subject. So if you look at the shots I'm going to show you, you can't see that with the human eye, and that makes it interesting to me. So it adds that interest. It's hard to do, which is fun for me because it sets me apart from a lot of other photographers who show up, and anybody could shoot at 2,000 of a second and get an animal walking toward you. It hides the background, which was very handy in COVID because in Tokyo Olympics, we had no fans. Same thing in Beijing. I didn't go to that one. But in Tokyo, we had no fans. And a bunch of empty stands in the background. So it just looked horrible. So I don't want to hide that background. And it's a lot of fun. I love the challenge of capturing motion panning. And people always ask me, well, what's the right shutter speed for motion panning? Depends on the speed of your subject. So what I would do is I would practice when my daughter was little. I had her ride her bike back in front, out in front of the street here. And I'd practice different speeds. I'd have her go fast and slow. And then when I teach at B&H, I go to Central Park in New York. The horse and buggies would be really slow, right? And they're just going by. I'd have to shoot them at half a second. But then you get someone, maybe a jogger, you might motion pan them at 20th of a second or 50th of a second. Then you get a bike rider coming by really fast, you might motion pan them at 200th of a second. And so it just depends on that subject and how much blur you want. People sometimes, when I teach, I do a San Francisco photo tour here, and I teach motion panning on the cable cars going by, and all people say like, "Hey, look at this one," and I go, "Yeah, cable car's nice and sharp, but so is your background. I want to see more blur, so let's slow it down," and I teach that. So how much motion you want to show, how much of the background you want to show, and what's the best you can get. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. And I put down there in red at the bottom, remember, they won't all be keepers. And people say, well, you're a pro and I've seen all your photos and you're known for motion panning, which I am, but trust me, when I was doing a lot of my motion panning, it might be one out of every 20 or 30 or 40 that I consider to be good enough. So don't think you're gonna get, I did the horse jumping in Tokyo. I shot the entire horse jump for 2 hours at 20th of a second. I think I got 3 images. So that was a bit aggressive. I backed it down to 30th of a second in Paris. Here's in London. These ladies were going over and over because it was like the 10,000 meter. They just kept going. And I got plenty of shots of them frozen. So I thought, well, I'm going to try something different. So I slowed down the shutter speed on that. You could tell who I was panning. I was panning the girl in the middle because this woman here is a lot sharper than the others. So that's what I was following. Really cool motion. And I love the fact that they had yellow tennis shoes or running shoes because it made it much more interesting here at the bottom. I tried it on figure skating. This is back, I think, in Vancouver or Sochi. And yeah, it was okay. I couldn't decide if I liked it or not. Some people love it, some people hate it. Same thing with diving. It shows the spin, which is kind of cool. This one here I took in Tokyo. This is one of the few that did turn out during horse jumping. And his face is tack sharp here, which I love. And it's an American rider, which I love. You got the US flag right here. So it's cool to get that shot. He kind of looked bored, and I posted something online like, God, I love the shot. I wish he didn't look so bored. And then I was a horse jumper, professional horse jumper, who contacted me and said, no, 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 they're analyzing the next jump. That's what he's doing. So it made it a little bit better for me. Now, this here is a motion pan of a motorcycle rider. This is taken in Sonoma up in the wine country. And there you can actually freeze the action. You don't have to motion pan it because you can't, we understand gravity, right? You can't lean into a turn like that and stay. Whereas a race car, if you shoot it fast, you might as well just park the race car on the track. So, but I still want to motion pan these guys. I want to get the spin of the tires. You can see the spinning here, but I also want to blur the background a little bit. I actually tried, when I was shooting for Chip Ganassi Racing, I was shooting NASCAR. This is in the Poconos. And I actually tried slowing the shutter and motion panning while zooming out the lens, kind of a cool effect for Kyle Busch's car as he was coming toward me. This is one of the hardest photos I've ever taken. This is an IndyCar race. This was in Indianapolis. And this is actually taken at, so I took the first shot at 200th of a second, motion panned it, came out really sharp, but not enough blur. I thought, okay, well, that was sharp. I'll go to 100th of a second. Got it. Went to 80th of a second, looked at the camera, got it. Went to 60th. I went all the way down, I think, to 30th of a second and got the shot. And again, what you're looking for is every logo to be tack sharp, helmet sharp, good blur of the tires, and all of the backgrounds blurred. These were cones that were in the lane and grass. It was boring, but this shot looked really, really cool. Now, hummingbirds, this is taken at 1/60th of a second because it was just perched. So perch, you can get away with that. In flight, if you want to freeze the wings like this, you're at 1/1600th of a second or even more. I like this shot because the sunlight was coming right up to the breast here, the breastplate of the bird, really pretty. This is taken at 1600th of a second. So is this. This one's frozen. This one's not. Just depends on the speed of the wings at the time. This is at 1/800th of a second. Again, I'm trying to get the color of the bird and get them sharp. I don't mind a little bit of blur in the wings. As a matter of fact, sometimes I even get more. Like this is at 400th of a second. So I'll experiment and I'll try different shutter speeds to get different looks. This one here was taken in Peru, where I'll be in 2 weeks. And they have a really long beaked hummingbird. And unfortunately, we got there late in the day. I want to get a better shot on this next trip. And I was like ISO 10,000 to get this shot and even to get 400th of a second. So I want to kind of recreate that and do better this next trip. This is taken at 400th of a second. This is funny because this is in Costa Rica and it rains a lot in the rainforest. But generally doesn't rain until about 4 p.m. So we're out shooting. We love overcast, good light. Started raining, and the people I was with were like, all right, we're done. And I said, well, hold on a second. Let's not be done yet. Because what if we can get some cool pictures of water bouncing off the bird or coming off the wings? So I challenged everybody to, we were underneath kind of an overhang. We weren't getting too wet. And I challenged them to get a good shot. And I got the water kind of bouncing off the head of the bird, which I think was really cool. Again, the key is to get this water on the beak, sharp on the eye and the face, let everything else go out of focus. That's fine. This one here is 100th of a second. This is with a flash. This is on my first trip to Costa Rica, way back about 10 years ago. I generally don't use flash anymore. It kind of bothers the birds. Mm-hmm. This one here, same idea. This is a puffin in Scotland, raining like mad. So I thought, well, let's try to use the rain to our advantage. So get a shot like this. Okay, what makes a good motion pan shot? Again, having the sharp subject, whether it's athletes or animals, a good amount of motion in the extremities, and a good amount of blur in the background. So this is taken on my last trip to Tanzania. We were by a kill. When you're by a kill, it's a pecking order. First you get lions, then you get the hyenas, and eventually you work your way down to the birds, and the vultures just come in, and they come in pretty consistently. And so, again, I had a lot of pictures. My guests and I had a lot of pictures at 1,000th of a second of them coming in, and it was getting boring. So I said, okay, everybody, 200th of a second, I'm gonna challenge you. So we all took turns, we were all shooting at the same time as they came in. And again, you want to get that face in focus. I don't care about the rest. So it's cool to get something different. Same thing here. When you go to Africa, you see wildebeest. First time we see a wildebeest, everybody's like, stop the vehicle. It's a wildebeest. By day 3, you're like, you've seen 100,000 of them. You don't care anymore. So what I tell people is the only wildebeest I want to see is between the teeth of a croc or a lion, because it's more interesting. But here in this case, we'd seen them going by with the Great Migration. We'd seen hundreds of thousands. So I thought, okay, I'll try 1/6 of a second, because they weren't running. They were just kind of walking, just to try something different. This one here is one of my favorite shots, motion pans, 15th of a second. There were about maybe 10 or 15 giraffe that were running by us, one by one, right after each other. So very predictable. So first couple I shot really fast. I quickly jammed my aperture at f/25 or whatever I get, dropped my ISO down to 100, put me at 15th of a second, and tracked it. This is from inside a vehicle, handheld. And again, great motion in the legs, a little bit of motion in the body and the back, tack sharp on the face. So I was lucky he didn't bob his head up and down when I got this shot. Really cool motion in the background. And actually, I should have added one more photo, which I'll show you after. This is a motion pan of a ocelot in Costa Rica. Only one I've ever seen in the wild. This was not planned, but we got out of the vehicle. We had about 8 seconds to shoot it. My shutter speed was slow. I went to shoot. This is with my old 1DX. It's like, chick-kunk, chick-kunk. I'm like, uh-oh. And I just motion panned because I didn't have time to even change the ISO. So get the safe shot first. When I shoot sports, and especially if I'm under contract, I want to get the safe shot first. Then I'll experiment and try something different. So here, this is, I shot this for Fila. They were making the outfit for this guy. This is Shanny Davis, who I love all Olympic athletes except for this guy. He was a jerk. But this is taking really fast shutter speed to get my shot. That's what Fila wanted. That's the shot they got. And then I tried something different. I started motion panning. This is in Pyeongchang in Korea. Again, face is sharp, extremities showing some motion, and even the logo in the background has the blur. And normally I don't do this, but I thought, you know what, it'd be fun to shoot the short track speed skating through the judges and the exercise bikes and all the warm up and all the stuff that was going on and the crowd in the background. So I just kind of focused on number 12 and panned along through all the junk that's in the foreground here. And I kind of like it. Something different. This is in Botswana. This is one of the skimmers going across the water. And we were there, and one of the guys that lives in Botswana said, I challenge anybody to do a motion blur, and it took me forever. But this is at 1/40th of a second, the same bird coming in. It took me a good half hour to get this shot. But different, and I like it. And this was the same trip. I rolled the zoom during a slow shutter. This bird was in a nest. Some people hate the shot. It's okay. It's something different. I just like pushing myself. These guys were running by us in Botswana. So got the safe shot, got it at 1500th of a second, killed the shutter speed, motion panned it. This one here is okay. You'll see it's the same scene as what we had here, but very different look. It's not tack sharp on the eye. It's not my best shot, but it showed a good example of the difference between this and that. This elephant was walking by, not running. So I killed the shutter speed down to like 1/5 of a second to shoot that. This shot here is, again, another one of the hardest shots I've ever taken. This is from a vehicle, handheld with a 200 to 400 lens, which is massive, at 400 millimeters. And I tracked the zebra at 30th of a second and got this shot. Really, really hard shot to get. Face pretty sharp, good motion in the legs and everything. Good motion in the tail. So that one was a tough one. This was a different trip. We had a whole bunch of zebras going by. Again, kind of not going that fast. So I killed the shutter speed to 13th of a second. I took this picture. And it's funny because I almost deleted it. Because I'm like, I'm not sure if I like it. And I did a charity thing. I do a lot of work for Make-A-Wish Foundation and UCSF Children's Hospital. So I do a lot of volunteering for them. And I always donate images to their auction. And the image that the winner picked was this one. So kind of interesting. Like some people might see it as junk, and some people may love it. This one here is motion panning. A bunch of these guys this is in Botswana, and we had the hippos out of the water. And our driver said, as soon as we get closer, we're all going to run for cover in the water. So I said to everybody, get ready. Let's kill our shutter speed. So I looked at the scene from farther back. Said, okay, let's go to 80th of a second. We all did. He jammed the vehicle forward. We went up. As soon as they started running, I said, stop the vehicle. We had to wait for it to settle because we're all in the vehicle. Once it stopped moving, we all started motion panning. And that created all the water splash and direction you see of the water coming off the hippos, but still got the one hippo sharp, which I like. Best technique for motion pan, if you want to try it, is get a wide stance, almost like you're playing golf. And this is true for a lot of photography, right? You don't want your feet to be close together. I tend to kind of spread my feet apart, so I'm a human tripod. I like handheld. I kind of tuck my arms in. I twist at the waist. I start, if I'm motion panning a cable car, I'll start from far left and click, 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 click till it's out of frame on the right. Typically servo focus, so it's tracking the focus of that animal or object, and you follow through all the way. So here's a motion pan of an athlete in Pyeongchang. I tried twisting the camera to get kind of a little different look. No, they're not going downhill. Here's another one, twisting to get some of the color of the background. Here's bobsled motion panning, again, for something different. If you look in the foreground, there are a bunch of photographers who are allowed to be in the spot to shoot. Well, I don't want them in my shot. So I shot this motion pan, I believe I was 100th of a second. The hard part about bobsleds is even if you get a perfect focus shot like I did here, sometimes they're going so fast that they vibrate and it ruins the focus. It doesn't even look like it's in focus. Even though I'm locked in, this one turned out really well. This one here, this is me trying to motion pan a ski jumper over the Olympic rings. This is in Pyeongchang. I was using a 200 to 400, and it took me 45 minutes to get this shot, and my back was on fire. I literally hurt for 2 days trying to get this photo. Same thing here, motion of the bike rider, tack sharp in the face, blur everywhere else. This is kayaking in London. Um, and me, again, having shot so many of these guys coming down the river and trying something different. This is the women's hockey game. This is in Pyeongchang. The women were in solid contention for gold, which they did win. This game, it was pretty much over in the third period. I think we had like a 5-goal lead. And so I thought, well, I'm going to shoot the whole third. I contacted the team and I said, hey, I think I'm going to shoot the entire third period at 100th of a second or 50th of a second. And he goes, hey, yeah, do whatever you want. And so just trying something different. I'm shooting through plexiglass and got a shot like this, kind of fun. So now, if this was a gold medal game, no way would I try this. This is one of my favorite motion pans of a skater. This is, again, at Pyeongchang. You can see Pyeongchang 2018, barely. Olympic rings, barely. This face is tack sharp and really cool motion of both hands and the feet. I just love the colors of the shot and the colors that she was wearing. Everything just worked out really, really nicely. This is, so in case somebody wants to join me on a photo tour, unfortunately this year they're all sold out. Although we had someone ask today to go to Peru, which is in 2.5 weeks. I think we might both fit them in. So I go to some really cool places. Right now for 2026, I've only added the Costa Rica trips. I just added those 3. Those are the ones that sell out the fastest for me. And then Tanzania for 2027, I haven't even announced yet. I had some people that went to Costa Rica with me on this last trip and said, we want to go to Africa. So I set up a trip. 3 of them booked in. And since then, I've had 5 more people booked. So I've already got 8 spots taken. So I've got 4 left for that. I may do a back-to-back trip out there and open up another spot. But I'm also looking to go do Galapagos, which I'll be in about a month from now, doing Galapagos again in 2026. And depending on the Alaska trip, which is also coming up in September, if that goes well, I'm going to do that one again. So Peru, I did last year a test trip, and the vendor was awesome, which is why we're doing Peru and Galapagos with him again this year. So what I do is I like to kind of feel out and find out which ones could work well. I also want to do Iceland really badly because I want to see the Northern Lights. So if you're interested in any of those, oh, I didn't leave my information with you. Hold on here. Let me exit out here. If you want to get a hold of me, you can just reach out to me. It's just Jeff at jeffcable.com. So JEFFCABLE.com. Website's just www.jeffcable.com. And Instagram, Facebook, Jeff Cable Photography. And Twitter, which I rarely use, or X, what you want to call it, is jcable12, I think it is. So, but I do answer every email. I had some guy that emailed me some images a couple days ago, and I replied back and gave him some critique, and he goes, I didn't expect you to reply. And so I do reply to every email. So at this point, I'll take any questions you guys have.
I have a question. So, the one thing that really stood out to me is the lighting and the colors in the gym, I guess you could say it for the Olympics. How do you get those so perfect?
Yeah, it's cheating. Honestly, it's kind of funny because people always make that comment and tell me, God, that's such a great shot. Well, we're cheating because if you're shooting the Olympics, it's actually easier than shooting a high school game. You have the best athletes in the world, great backgrounds and colors, and it's lit for television. So my ISO in many times is not even above 1,000 to get 1,500th of a second. So it actually, like I said, it's kind of cheating in a way because it's lit for TV. And so we don't have to fight that as bad. It's funny because like if you shoot a high school game or whatever, let's say a basketball game or a soccer game, and I used to do this with my kids. What is your background? Bunch of cars, a fence, maybe a
Right.
couple of cones, a bunch of disinterested parents who are just talking to each other and not giving a damn about the game, right? Like this is what you get. And so with the Olympics, you get crowds who just paid hundreds of dollars to watch the game. They care about the game. You have athletes that are invested. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
Do you shoot your sports photography in JPEG or RAW?
No,
And
I
what
shoot
about your wildlife?
everything raw, everything. The only time I shoot JPEG is, and this has happened now twice. In Tokyo, I was prototyping the R3, so I couldn't shoot RAW because I couldn't. And there was nothing that would open up a RAW file because no one knew about the R3. Same thing in Paris with the R1. It was prototype, and Adobe didn't have any way to open up because I used Photo Mechanic for everything and then Photoshop. Nothing would open a RAW file from an R1. So I had to shoot those two in JPEG. I hate doing it. And what I would do as soon as the RAW converter came out, I switched to RAW. So the R5 Mark II, for the first 4 days of the Olympics in Paris, there was no way to open it. Adobe came out with an update to their Camera Raw, and we could open them. That day, I switched back to RAW. So, when you're shooting wildlife, especially if you're not using a prototype, which most people are not, shoot RAW. Get every bit of data you can. And I used to say to people, if I'm shooting something important, I want to shoot it RAW. And if I'm shooting something important, I always shoot to 2 cards. So all my cameras have 2 card slots. I shoot redundant RAW files to both. And then I thought to myself, when am I shooting something that's not important? Right? It might be my granddaughter in the backyard. I've got a poster of her that is printed. That's important to me. It could be the bar mitzvah yesterday. It's important to them. And there's nothing that's not important. So I shoot everything RAW and everything to 2 cards.
Thank you.
And I highly recommend that.
I had a couple of questions, if I could.
Yep.
One about sports and one about wildlife. When you're shooting the Olympics, what kind of deadlines are you under, and how many shots a day do you average?
Paris, I shot 80,000 images throughout the 20 days.
Yep.
There's days you're shooting 5,000, 6,000 or more. Some days you're not shooting as much. Typical game. I made a mistake on the first water polo game in Paris. I went pre-capture on R1, 40 frames a second. I got to the press center. Remember, I have a 14-minute deadline.
Okay.
I got to the press center at 5,700 images from an hour and 15-minute game. And I wanted to put a gun in my head. I'm like, what did I just do? And I told my contact, Greg, who I've shot for USA for them for years. So we're buddies. He actually lives an hour from here now. Just moved to the Bay Area. And he's a friend. I just told him, I shot I can't say that. I shot the bleep out of this game. So give me an extra couple minutes, I'll get it to you. And I had a lot to choose from. And then since then, what I did after that is I only went to pre-capture at moments where I thought this would be helpful. A penalty shot or something where I'm like, oh, wait, I don't want to miss this. This will be good. Pre-capture on, fire, pre-capture off. But typical event, 4,000 images. But like the bar mitzvah I shot yesterday, I shot about 2,800 images throughout the day. Went through them all, got rid of the bad ones last night before I went to bed at midnight, and posted the entire gallery to the family today by noon. And that's my MO. The day before I shot the grad party, I knew I had the bar mitzvah the next day. I went through that night, did all the images and retouching for the entire grad party, and delivered it to this client. But this client, they're billionaires. I want to take care of them. So I will over deliver at all costs for them. And they pay for it. But so those same deadlines that I impose on myself, whether even when I shoot my grandkids, if my kids are here to watch them and I'm not taking care of them, I'm in here within 10 minutes of shooting because I want to see what the hell I got. So yeah, it's self-imposed, but it's also at the Olympics, it's the only way. Because remember, I'm not just shooting, I'm downloading, I'm retouching, I'm delivering, I'm moving to the next venue on a press bus or public transportation, whatever it be. I'm also writing blogs. I'm averaging at least 1 or 2 blogs a day, and those take me hours. So my typical day, the Olympics starts around 8 in the morning, usually gets done around 2 in the morning.
Cotton fabric.
Wow.
And
What about, I know you, I heard you mention a couple of times on your workshop tours of wildlife, telling people get your ISO here, get ready.
Well, hey, Tammy, you need to mute. There, I did it for you.
like from being
Nope,
very
it's not hearing.
actually take it and put it over.
Tammy,
You guys mute that?
Yeah.
When you do this over their head, you want to make
I don't
sure.
know how to mute it from
I
here.
don't worry about it.
Okay, well, we'll talk over it.
Yep.
In the wild.
Muted, Jeff.
I'm mute. I'm good, but Mike's muted too, I think.
Yeah, you muted everybody, Julie.
Okay, I'll unmute myself. Thanks,
There
Julie.
you go. You're good.
All right. In wildlife shooting, do you shoot auto ISO or do you shoot a fixed ISO and always change it? And
Always
how do
change
you adjust for changing light conditions so quickly if you do?
So what I teach, depending on where we're shooting, what I teach is aperture priority, not manual. Now I shoot manual when I do the Olympics, depending on the Olympics, what sport, and if it's indoor or outdoor, depending on how much changing of light there is. But for wildlife, let's take Costa Rica. I'm shooting something. I want to show you guys one image. Hold on here. I'm going to share my screen in a second here. I want to show you guys an image I just took. All right, let me see if I can share this. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this image was taken at 30th of a second. It's two macaw that were flying by. Well, we were shooting them in a tree. They were in their nest, and I was at ISO 3200 or whatever it was in there in the tree because it was getting toward the end of the day. And they just took off and flew. So I just quickly turned and shot it. But so there's cases where if I'm facing something that's dark and then a monkey comes over here to the right and it's in a brighter background, to sit there and shoot manual and make all the changes, you're not gonna be able to do it. So what I tell people to do is your cameras are computers that happen to take pictures. So let it handle some of it for you. So when I'm shooting wildlife or most sports, I'm shooting wide open. So if my lens is at 7.1, if it's a 100 to 500, if it's a 1 or 300, it might be a 2.8. I want the best aperture I can get to separate my subject from the background, right? Unless I'm trying to show a whole scene and the mountain and everything else. 99% of the time we're in Costa Rica or Africa, best aperture I can get, okay? Take that out of the equation. Gone, bye, good. Now, aperture priority, that one's already set. Now, I can control my shutter speed by just moving my ISO. So if I want to have a fast shutter speed, fine. I will go and I will turn up my ISO and I'll look at the corner and go, I'm at 1200th of a second. Great, shoot. If I want a motion pan, I just hit my thumb, go zip, zip. Now I'm down to ISO 100. I might be at 30th of a second. So it just depends. Hold on, this is bugging me. One sec. See, I'm a photographer. That light was looking really weird. That was my window. It was a reflection cone right at me. But so by controlling the ISO, I'm controlling my shutter speed. And I just teach everybody on my photo tours, it's the easiest way to shoot. And it allows you to make adjustments in any direction and still not miss the shot. Because when I turn over here and it's slow, I just move my thumb up and turn my ISO up and start shooting. Back down here is more light. I use my thumb and I roll it back down again and just watch that shutter speed at the corner. And if I want to do motion panning, I just slam it down the lowest I could, use my finger and move the aperture up and start shooting. So it gives you more control. Most people love it. Some people are like, no, I'm not used to that. I want to stay manual. Hey, whatever you want. But usually when they learn my trick, it's pretty handy. And the problem with auto ISO, especially if you're shooting somewhere like Costa Rica, right? You have a low light, you have a black, you have a howler monkey. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. You have this guy. Let's see if I can find one here. We had a good howler monkey. Oh, this guy. Hold on. Share him. All right. So this guy here, black monkey, dark background, right? My ISO 800. I'm at 400th of a second. Auto ISO is going to look at this and go, no, no, no. You need to be at like ISO 3000 or 10,000 for certain shots. And so it's going to jump up. And there's many times we're in a really dark environment. It's going to want you to ISO 30,000. I don't want people to do that. I'd rather you hold steady and try to get the shot at a slower shutter speed.
So if I understand right, then you're an aperture priority, but you're rolling the ISO to control your shutter speed.
Yep. Great way to cheat. Works well.
Do you have to program a button on your camera to roll your ISO?
Nope. On my cameras. So I've got them set. Here's my R1, my back dial right here. This is ISO. front dial right here, aperture. So literally, it's muscle memory. I can just like, I can work both at the same time. And like when I shoot, I'm shooting sometimes. I'm changing settings 700-800 times a day when I'm shooting a bar mitzvah or something, not even thinking about it. I'm just okay. I've got one person. I'll be at 2.8. Oop, I have a group shot. Better be at f5.6. But and I'll roll the ISO to get what I need for that. It's just inherently part of my brain, I guess, or what's left of it.
Interesting.
See, I'm glad you shared that because that's what I do. I scroll my ISO until I get my exposure like around 0.
Yep.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure because
And I
people
don't
say
even,
no.
and I don't even look. I don't even look at with mirrorless. You don't even have to look at the meter. You can just tell right through the camera how you're doing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Jeff, would
I'm
you
gonna
show
try that
one more
next time
time
with
on
you.
your camera?
Say again.
Would you show one more time, pick up your camera
Sure.
and show us?
Yeah. So let me see if I can get it in closer here. So this back dial. Let's see here. This dial right here, the back dial on my Canon. Hold on here, right there. This is my ISO right here. So I got it set. This back dial here for ISO. This front dial here is my aperture. And then the back wheel is shutter speed, which I never really use. So it's just ISO and aperture. So ISO back here, thumb, aperture, finger.
Wow.
And again, if you get stuck on that, email me and I'll kind of try to take some pictures to show you. But it's a great way to work. I mean, again, when I'm shooting like yesterday, last night, when I was shooting the service in a temple, there was no flash allowed. I know I'm gonna be at 2.8 because it's low light. I need every bit of light I can get. So I'm at 2.8 and I'm just looking at my shutter speed. I want to be at least 150th of a second because I don't want, if the kid laughs or something, I don't want a big blur. So I'll just get my ISO to the point where I'm at 150 or 200th of a second. That's where I am. Stay there. And then last night for the party, now I'm using a light here, a Westcott. That was the word. That was the brand other light. So I use Westcott lights for my remotes. So I've got one here, one on camera, and I'm wirelessly changing the ratio between the lights. So I got that one at 1/28, that one at 1/64 on cameras to ETTL at -1/3 stop, and that's my ratio I'm using. And then I'll look at the venue and I'll underexpose the venue by a full stop to bring out the color more, and let my flashes bring out the people. So then it's all manual. So depending on what I'm shooting determines what mode I'm in, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Gonna have to figure out how to do that with Nikon.
Well, so I'll be honest with you, the Canon, I'm sponsored by Canon and I'm supposed to say all great things about Canon, but Canon flashes right now suck at wireless. Ever since 5G phones came out, and they tell me I'm not right on this. Well, I called them a year and a half ago and said, something's wrong with your wireless flash. Ever since 5G came out, they're not staying in sync. And they said, no, you're wrong. No one's complained about it. And then I saw them a couple months later and they said, we're stopping shipping our flashes because of the problem. Like, yeah. And they still have not fixed the problem. So my flashes I use in this bag are all Canon, and the flashes in the other bag are all Westcott. And I've got, so when I'm shooting an on-camera flash for portrait at -1, so just adding a kiss of light, Canon. When I'm shooting events where I've got ratios and wireless, all Westcott. Any other questions?
What about your focus? Do you use single focus for everything, or when do you change focus spots?
In the old days with DSLR, I used single point focus, not servo focus or not follow focus for portraits. Now with mirrorless cameras and the eye detection, it's so damn good that I just use it. I leave it in eye detection mode, servo all the time. And what I do is I set my camera. Another thing I do on my cameras is I set it up. So the AF on button on the back here, this AF on button is my face and eye detection. But the button off to this side, the asterisk or the metering button, I change that to be a center point single focus. So if I'm photographing a person, I'll be on AF on, or an animal, a monkey, and whatever it's locking in. Great. But if it's not locking in them because there's not enough contrast, or I'm photographing a scene without a person, I move my thumb over one to a single point focus servo. And so I teach everybody on my photo tours the same thing. One button's for eye detection and one button's not. And this one's super cool. With the R1, it actually has not only eye detection for my subject, but it has pupil detection for me. So if I have a group of 5 people and I'm shooting, this happened last night, and I've got 5 or 8 people in a group shot, I can look at my subject, the kid, let's say bar mitzvah kid's there. I'm looking at him, the camera will focus on him. So it literally tracks my people to see who I'm looking at to focus on. So all of these things have changed the game in that respect.
Wow.
That's nice.
I have an old camera. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate to, and this is not to push Canon or anybody else, but the difference between, this is true for Nikon, Sony, everybody, the mirrorless is a game changer. And when I switched from the 1DX Mark III, top of the line, $7,000 camera, Canon sent me an R6, $2,000 camera. The minute I used it, I never used my my 1DX Mark III again. It's literally sitting on I have a shelf, a bunch of shelves in my living room with antique cameras. It's sitting up there because the focus system on these new mirrorless is so damn good. And anybody who goes on my photo tours, so Canon sponsors me, they loan any camera equipment, any lenses you want. I just send in a request for 10 cameras and lenses for all the people who are going to Peru and Galapagos. You could borrow anything you want for free and try it. And for people who go with me to Costa Rica, I tell them, don't come there with a DSLR. Come with a mirrorless or borrow a mirrorless because it's a game changer.
I see.
I'm spending money for you. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
The good news is with the mirrorless cameras, you get a $100 adapter and you can use all your existing lenses. That's kind of nice.
There you go, Carrie. You ready?
Man, look, don't even tease me, okay?
Carrie and I were out on a field shoot, and we were debating whether he should switch to mirrorless or not.
I'm very practical with people, and I tell people all the time, like, look, the difference between a 70 to 200 version 1, version 2, version 3. If you own a version 1, don't sell it and get a version 2 or 3. You don't need it. It's not that much different. Going from the old Canon 100 to 400 push pull to the 100 400 version 2, huge difference. Going from a 5D Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4 was incrementally better, but not enough to justify losing all the money of selling one for cheap and buying a new one at retail. Going from DSLR to mirrorless is so much of a game changer that to me it's like an easy thing to talk about. And again, I'm realistic with people. Some things are not worth upgrading. That one's worth upgrading. So Carrie, get on it.
Jeff, out of all the subjects you shoot, what's your favorite? Is it the Olympics or is it wildlife out in the field? Or
honestly, you might be able to tell I'm pretty ADD. I like anything new. So one of the cool things about shooting wildlife and sports is it's unpredictable. So like going back to Peru, we're going to go to Machu Picchu, right? I was there last year. So I'm hoping for different weather, different clouds, something different, right? If you go to the same, like let's say it's the Taj Mahal and you go there every year, that would be, to me, would be boring other than hoping for better light or whatever. To me, one of the cool things about doing safaris in Africa or going to Costa Rica or shooting sports is you just don't know what you're going to get, and that makes it fun. And so I don't really have like people ask me all the time, what's my favorite image? In my favorite folder right now, I have 1,816 pictures that are my favorites. But there's very few that stand out as like, that's the one. It's just, there's, a couple, like I really like that motion pan that I just took of those 2 macaw because it was so damn hard to shoot. It's still not tack sharp, but it's close. But I really like that shot, but is it my ultimate favorite? No. And so like look at here, I'll go back for a second. I'll share this with you. So this is my, you probably can see this here. This is my collection of favorites. So like here's my girlfriend in Hawaii, my grandkids, and then a bunch of Costa Rica shots. I love the red-eyed tree frogs. Make that a little bit bigger here. So you can see like I just have a vast collection of different ones, and like I really like this shot of the red-eyed tree frog, but I also like this bird flying at me. And so like I have all kinds of these four dolphins in the air. This one here is my background for my screen now on my Mac. So like it's I just like to shoot anything new. Because to me, it kind of fills my cup. Like some people want to go on vacation and come back with a t-shirt or a mug. No, I want to come back with a killer image. And like I said, it was hard in Hawaii when I went with Laura and I said, like, I'm not going to shoot, I promise. I brought my 100, 500, and I brought a wide. And I really didn't shoot that much until we did the tour of the Nepali coast. Um, and we saw whales and dolphins. And I was like, all bets are off, honey. Because I mean, I got a good breach shot of a whale. I've always wanted one. And I got that shot of that dolphin that you saw. So I just can't help myself. And I love it because I have the passion for it. And when I take people on photo tours, I share that passion. Like I want people to, and if they bring a spouse, which a lot of people do, great. But I want the spouse to have as much fun and have a good time. And we have a good laugh all the time. Like I tell people, number one goal of the photo tour is not to get a great photo, it's to have fun. And getting great photos is the bonus. So, but yeah, I love sharing the passion for what I do. And I get to, I mean, I'm very lucky that I get to do the Olympics. I get to travel around the world, shooting. So it's a good gig.
Sounds like a fascinating life.
I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty lucky. First time I did the Olympics, I pinched myself like, holy crap, I'm at the Olympics. Second Olympics, which was the first summer games I ever did. Sorry, first winter. And I was like, wow, I'm at my second games. I'm at winter games now. Now, I mean, I'm about to do my ninth one. And I swear to you, I'll still show up there excited. A lot of guys show up to the Olympics and they hate it because the hours are crazy, the deadlines are crazy, and they're shooting for AP or Getty, which they do all day long anyway, and they get paid less than they would per hour. To me, I look at it like such an honor to be there, and I love every second of it. Doesn't mean I don't stress out, but I still love it.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you flying solo on those Olympics, or do you have a team that goes with you?
Oh, solo.
At least one assistant to grab
Nope.
your bag?
I'm doing it all, which is brutal because in Paris, normally they have press buses that take us from where we're going to every venue. In Paris, they said, we're trying to be sustainable. We don't want a bunch of buses going around. So, and our public transportation is so good, just use that. So they gave us a card, which I have sitting here. And it was one of these like, cards we could take anywhere. It's around here somewhere. And you could take any public transportation you want, no charge. The problem is half the train stations in Paris, they don't have escalators or elevators. They've got, if just to get to one train, you're going up 10 stairs, down 10 stairs, up 10 stairs, down 20 stairs. Going around a bend, down 20 more stairs. And I'm carrying a think tank bag, this one, which weighs, 37 pounds, plus a 100 to 300 and an R1, plus another bag. And I'm trying to help moms with their strollers because they're having a hard time. It was brutal. And it was hot. So, and Milan's going to be a disaster. I can tell you already. Like Milan, I'm shooting for the ice hockey. In Milan Central is ice hockey, speed skating, and figure skating. Everything else, skiing, snowboarding, curling, everything is a 14-hour drive from Milan. It's up in the mountains. So Team USA already said, if you're in this cluster, don't think you're going anywhere else. So literally, when I get to Milan, it'll be a very different Olympics for me because I'm not going to have the variety of images that I just showed you. It's going to be all ice stuff, and that's it. It'll be weird. And the other crazy thing is, I'm staying central Milan, near the main hockey facility. But the other hockey facility where they have the other games is an hour of the other direction in town. So like, these are all the logistics we deal with that are brutal. And I blog this stuff all the time. So I share what's it like behind the scenes at each Olympics. And that's why the blog viewership just goes like that, because everybody wants to know what each Olympics is like. So I should tell people the blog, which is just, you can get to it from my website, but you can also just type in blog.jeffcable.com. And if you put your email address in the top, you can subscribe. And each week as I write a blog, you'll get it in your email. Just makes it easy.
Yeah, I like that.
Jeff, what do you do for backing up your photos for storage?
Great question. I've got a whole thing, array of things I do. So I've got, when I'm at the Olympics, I've got the Crucial X10 solid state drives. These are 4 TB. I've got a whole slew of these. I back up. I keep one in my hotel room. I keep one in my locker at the main press center. I keep one in my locker at whatever venue I'm at. I keep one in my bag. Then when I get home, I have a server. I don't know if you can see this. I'll see if I can show you here. This may or may not reach. No, over there in the corner, you can't see it. Or there is a server. Yeah, can't see it. And in that server, I've got, I have 2 million, 2.3 million images on that server. That server, when I get home from the Olympics, the first thing I do before I even go to bed, I take everything I shot at the Olympics on that solid state drive. I move it onto my main drive here on my computer over to that server. And then that server every night at 1 in the morning synchronizes to my brother's house, which is 250 miles away from here. So those 2 million images that are here are also there. So God forbid if I have a fire, every photo I've ever taken in my life is safe. So it's a very expensive solution. I have 1/4 of a petabyte of data of storage between the boxes here. So,
But that's your livelihood, man, you know.
yeah, but even if it wasn't my livelihood, I tell people all the time, like, let's go back to that picture of my grandkids. I want those pictures. So it's important to have them in more than one place. And I know photographers are like, oh, I've got everything backed up. I go, great. Where's your backup? Yeah, at the house. So I live in California. You saw what happened in LA. You saw what happened in Sonoma a year ago. We have earthquakes. I mean, I figure this way. I used to have that second server about 5 blocks from here, my friend's house. And after Sonoma fires, I realized, wait, they can wipe out entire neighborhoods. If we have something that wipes out my house and my brother's house 250 miles from here, we have bigger problems than my images. So, yeah.
Do you do you use Lightroom Classic, or what is your filing cataloging system?
No, I don't catalog it in Lightroom at all. I don't like Lightroom. I use Photo Mechanic for everything. That's what you saw me, all my favorite photos in.
Yeah.
I use Photo Mechanic for all my culling, and I use Photoshop for all my editing. As far as cataloging, I have no catalogs. I mean, I do inside of Photo Mechanic, you can search. So I can say, find every time I shot at the Embassy Suites in San Rafael, which is where I was last night. It'll pull up all those. But I don't like catalogs. I like everything in folders. I can tell you I can find any image. But one of the Olympic athletes, the goalie from Team USA women's water polo, emailed me a couple hours ago and said, hey, can you give me a cool shot of me that you took at this games? I found it in like 3 minutes. I can find any photo within like 3 minutes because I have everything date coded by name, everything. So I hate having these giant catalogs. I don't want it.
Yeah, me either.
I went to Adobe because they sponsor me, and the Lightroom team invited me to come speak, and I said, I don't use Lightroom. I don't even like Lightroom. And the guy who really runs the group goes, that's why we want you to come speak. So I went to Adobe and I said, here's why I don't use Lightroom. I did a whole presentation on Photo Mechanic and how fast it is and why every Olympic photographer uses it. And the engineer stood up in the back of the room and he goes, I told you guys, we need to make this thing faster. And he used a bunch of explicit language. I laughed. It's too damn slow. It's way too slow for what I do. So I don't use it. For the average consumer, it works really well. But to me, Photo Mechanic going straight to Photoshop is awesome. Does that mean it's dinner time now?
Jeff, where you are probably.
6:30 here.
Jeff, I want to know how big of a discount you're going to give to members of Lafayette Photographic Society for that Tanzania trip.
That's a good question. You email me and we'll talk. How about that? Anybody who's into the trip, I do discounts for people in groups, and I always tell people the best part about doing photo tours is meeting new people. The group I had on this last trip to Costa Rica, we just had so much fun. Like I said, 4 of those people are coming to Africa. 3 of them are going to Peru, and the trip was just 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, do you have any openings in Peru?" And I said, "I could probably sneak you in," and we got them all in. So um, I love meeting new people, and so we can talk.
Sounds like a blast.
Oh, it's a if you have not been to Africa, and again I've traveled the world. I mean I've done photo tours in Indochina, Europe, Australia, I mean, pretty much everywhere. If you've not been to Africa, it is life changing. And they say that you can leave Africa, Africa never leaves you. It is incredible. It's also easier to shoot than Costa Rica because you have so much more light and everything there. So, and you're in a vehicle and you can rest your lens on a beanbag on top of the vehicle. So it's not like you have to sit there and walk around for hours holding, a large lens. It's kind of nice.
I'm going to be in Namibia in August. Have you been there before?
I have actually that shot of the iguana. Sorry, the iguana. The um, I'm blanking on the name. The chameleon was taken in Namibia. The dunes there are amazing. If you like sand, Julie, you'll like Namibia. It's really cool. Not my favorite places for safari though, because a lot of the parks there have man-made water holes that have almost a cement type edge to it. Drives me crazy. Um, but it's a very cool place. And when you get to Dune 45, it's pretty awesome. And you're probably going to go to Dead Valley as well, and that's pretty cool.
We're going to actually spend a lot of time in Etosha.
Yeah,
in the national park.
Etosha's okay. Etosha has a lot of those man-made water holes, which I'm not. So try to avoid those edges.
Absolutely.
That's why I like Tanzania and Botswana better. The other thing I like about where we go in Tanzania, there's a place called Ndutu where you can go off-road. It's in Serengeti, but it's a different area and you can go off-road. So if you see a cool lion in a tree, you can drive right to the tree. I have a photo of 16 lions in one tree. That was pretty cool.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. You'll love it though. You'll love it.
You ever shoot a Super Bowl?
You know what's funny? I got asked that 2 days ago. I asked to shoot the Super Bowl because it's here. Guess where I'll be? I'll be in Milan. It overlaps with the Olympics. So I've not shot a Super Bowl, and mostly it's because of my schedule. Usually that time of year I'm in Tanzania because that's reverse migration time. And that's where they're calving and stuff. So I like to be out there. Never done it. And the other thing is I hate crowds. The Olympics, you would think that there'd be a lot of crowds, but we have separate entrances, separate bathrooms, separate restaurants, separate everything. So mostly separate transportation. So I like there's certain concerts I don't want to go to because you have to wait 5 hours to get out. So like when I go to the Niner games, I'm really spoiled because I photograph for the owners of the Niners. So I get owner's box, owner's parking, and they have a special lane that goes from the stadium to the freeway that only the owners can take. And most people take 2 to 3 hours to get out of there to come home. I can be home in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So I'm totally spoiled.
Well, I want to make you a deal. Next time they have the Super Bowl in New Orleans, you cover that, but come to Lafayette.
You got it.
We'll treat you to a part of the country you've never been to before, I promise.
That would be cool. Actually, I have not been to that area in a long, long time. And it's funny, my sister just came back from New Orleans. My brother was supposed to go, had to cancel it. And I was telling him, I haven't been out there in so long. I was doing a special project. I can't really talk about too much with New Orleans PD. We were doing a forensic photography thing with them. That was the last time I was out there. But I do want to come back. And I will tell you that some of the best food I've ever had was out there.
Well, we're 2 hours away, and we'll put our food as being better. So,
right.
Yeah, Cajun food kicks New Orleans Creole food. So.
Okay, cool. I would love to do it. The great thing about Zoom is you can do these things. The bad thing is you don't get to go out to the cool places and meet everybody.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the hardest part for me is I want to see people's reaction when I'm talking, and you can't. And that kind of sucks. So yeah. So I wish I could be out there.
Well, anybody got any other questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Go.
Okay.
Hey Jeff, I see that beautiful printer you got back there. How often do you use it, and what's your favorite media that you print your work on?
Right now, mostly what I do on there is the Canon luster rolls. I've got a Honolulu metal paper that I've just got, haven't tried yet. What I don't use it. I got it because there was an office building, and they wanted a bunch of my images in this office building. So I thought, well, I could print them all through Bayphoto or Color Lab. Or Canada offered me one of these printers a long time, they sponsored me, so they offered me a long time ago. And that's when I was still married, and my ex-wife was like, there's no way we're putting that damn thing in my house. Then we got divorced. I'm like, well, bring it on. So got rid of the wife, got a printer. But so put it in the house. And it's funny because I printed for that office building. And then subsequently, I've actually done a fair amount of printing with it. For fun, my house, I have a bunch of frames that are 24 by 36. I just change them out every once in a while. And I've done a lot, like I said, do a lot of charity stuff where I'll tell people I'll donate a large print, and I let people go to my website and pick whatever image they want, kind of thing. So I use it. There's times when months go by and I don't use it. And there's other times where I use it often. It just depends. But it is amazing to be able to print, life size. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got the same printer, so that's why I was wondering. Yeah, great.
Yeah, do you leave yours powered on?
All the time. Yep.
Yeah. I leave mine powered on even when I'm traveling. Like I'm gone literally for a month on this next trip between New York, Peru, and Galapagos. It'll sit there and I leave it on just so the ink can stir. But I hate to leave it, like sometimes I'll print just to print, just to give it some life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you using custom profiles for your papers or no? No.
I use the profiles that come with, if it's Canon paper, yes. If it's Honolulu paper, I'll use their profiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. And like I said, if there's any other questions or we didn't get to them, feel free to email me. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if you want any information on the photo tours, send me an email as well. Now it's time to go to sushi.
Yes. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. I hope everybody had fun and learned something. That's the goal.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
Jeff. What a wonderful presentation. And you have a spectacular career going there. Enjoy every minute of it.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate that. I know, like I said, I know I'm lucky. I get paid to do what I love. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.
Julie, anything else for the group?
No, but he is amazing and he is full of energy and life.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna try to go on one of his tours to Costa Rica. I got a hall pass from the boss, so I just
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Finding getting a spot though, he sells out really quick. You saw a year in advance. So, but he is a really cool guy. He's serious about answering all the emails. When I first approached him, just out of the blue, he answered the email within like 2 or 3 days and said, "Sure, find a day on my calendar and we'll do it."
Oh, that's awesome.
And then now he has my. I gave him the cell phone just because they had trouble on his end. So he texted me that he dialed in an hour early because he had his time difference wrong. But so yeah, he's a real personal.
Do you have any idea the cost of his tours?
I think okay. So the one I looked at was for Costa Rica, and it's about 5,900. You got to fly to get to there, but then once you're there, I think all the expenses are paid. But his Africa tours are like 12 grand.
Oh yeah.
If you want to go with him to Africa or Galapagos to the islands there. That one was a $13,000 excursion. But again, most of these tours and workshops with guys like Jeff are, you kind of got at your own meals and your own expenses to get there. And now they handle all the rest of the things that you wouldn't have to worry about, and they know where to go find the critters. But yeah, pushing 6,000 is about the limit of what I can do and still stay married. Which, by the way, was 28 was this weekend. So
happy anniversary.
Yeah, thanks. I told her I guarantee 30, but after that, all bets were off.
Spending 12,000 for a trip of a lifetime over the length of your life seems not too much.
You know, I think I may use that. That might work. Especially if you think about how much have we spent already on cameras and lenses. You know, I got 15,000 sitting over there in the bag that's
Yeah,
open. Not to mention
take
what's
your
on the shelf.
age and divide it into the cost of the trip, and you know, it's not going to be that much.
Well, there we go.
Really, I never thought about that, Lynette. Huh, what?
There you
Yeah.
go, Carrie. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm pulling out
Wow.
all the stops. My husband's sitting right behind me.
You get it down to about $100 a year. Okay.
Y'all are funny.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate everybody turning out for it. I think our next one, I went back to Gary Farber has helped us with a lot of these. Jeff was one I went and got on my own. Later this year, we have Tim Gray, who is an expert with Lightroom and does a lot of, he also works with the national parks at night. He'll be interesting. We've got a judge, the next judge, I think, does flowers and does some kind of moody flower thing. Should be really, really some good Zoom speakers we have lined up for the rest of the year. So thanks everybody for showing up tonight, and I hope we keep you entertained and informed and learn something. I know I did. I can't wait to try that aperture priority and roll your ISO trick. If I can figure out how to program my Nikon to do that.
Well, thank you. He was a great choice. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.